Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. I am Joe Vidal, Thurston's proud principal, and it is a great honor that we welcome you, our future Wave Riders students and families, to tonight's information session about the wonderful opportunities we have waiting for you. We know some families who are unable to attend this evening, so please know we are recording this webinar and we will be sharing the recording and PowerPoint presentation with all of you following tonight's presentation. In addition, we will be monitoring the chat box and answering questions throughout this presentation. And at the end, if there are a few commonly asked questions from the chat box, and if needed, we'll develop a frequently asked questions document to address many lingering questions that we were unable to cover tonight. Also, if you have any child-specific questions, please know you can always reach out to your child's school counselor or our administration team. And please know that we'll also be sharing our contact information with you as part of this presentation tonight. This is a very exciting time for all of us for so many reasons. We know that throughout the transition into middle school comes with a lot of positive thoughts and emotions and a handful of questions like, what does that look like? And so for these reasons, we are thankful for the opportunity to bring parents and students together tonight to provide some insight into this exciting journey and also highlight what we have to offer and how we can help support you through this fun and exciting transition. I've also assured Mr. Duddy and Dr. Hatchell that we will continue to ensure their students have the very best care and support through their next steps here at Thurston. I'd like to start with some introductions. I'm Joe Vidal, principal here at Thurston, and I'm joined with Miss Megan Schooler, our assistant principal.
Good evening, everyone.
Mrs. Vanderveen, who works directly with all families with an A through K Alpha.
Hi there.
And Mrs. McMorris, our school counselor with M through Z.
Good evening.
In tonight's webinar, we'll also cover some of the following topics: a day in the life of a TMS student, some information about academics and elective options, Aeries registration and the steps you'll need to take, and finally some tools and resources you'll have to help you along the way and what's available once you arrive here on campus. The transition from elementary to middle school is an exciting one. You'll be traveling with your friends from your elementary school and have the opportunity to develop new friendships as two elementary schools leap together and make Thurston their very new home. And there will be plenty of opportunities to make new friends. We have numerous clubs, classes, there'll be school events and activities where all of this can take place. Beyond friendships, you'll also be stretching your independence and responsibility. One example of this is rather than having one teacher teaching all subjects, you will transition to 6 teachers with 6 different courses. All of this encompassed within our beautiful facilities with fun and engaging curriculum. And of course, I'm a little biased knowing that we have an amazing staff, a counseling and administrative team that will be here to help support you all along the way. And now I'll turn it over to Mrs. McMorris, who will share a little bit more about core classes and elective options here at Thurston.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, so as Mr. Vidal shared, one of the biggest changes is the jump from the 1 teacher in 1 classroom to now 6. And quite honestly, when we talk to our 6th graders about what they enjoy transitioning to middle school and to Thurston, this is probably the #1 thing that we hear as a positive, that they enjoy getting to now get to know 6 different teachers and rotate between classes. So what are these 6 classes? The core classes that every middle schooler, regardless of grade, has on their schedule are these core academic classes. They're language arts, they're math, they're social studies, science, and PE. And then in addition to that, students have a little bit more voice and choice now in the electives that they choose to take. A typical 6 class, a 6-period schedule includes 1 elective. And for 6th graders, those options are either of our pathway electives, exploratory or foreign language, or year-long band and strings. And we'll cover these in a little bit more detail in a moment, but we wanted to give you some context to what those 6 classes on a middle school schedule look like. We do offer also an option for students to have a 0 period, which creates a 7-period day, which allows them to take an additional second elective. So what does the schedule look like throughout the day with 6 classes? So our Monday days are all periods. So if a student has a 0 period, like I said, that's an extra optional period before school at 7:30. And Mondays go 1 through 6 or 0 through 6, depending on that student's schedule. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are alternating block days with a late start on Friday. So our Tuesday, Thursday are odd days. So students would go to their odd periods, 1 through 5. And then Wednesday, Friday, they would go to their even periods, 2, 4, 6. And I know we're sharing this with you now, and students probably are going to go, oh my gosh, it's going to be so hard to remember this schedule, but they will see it and you will see it many, many more times prior to the start of the school year. And then when we do start the new school year, their teachers will be fantastic in knowing, hey, these are 6th graders transitioning new to rotating classes, new to block scheduling, and they'll remind them, today is an odd day, go to next, you're going to go to period 4, or what have you. So that'll be something that will be an adjustment for them. But as again, it's always a positive we hear from our 6th graders. So in that block period day, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, there is an advisement or tutorial period after lunch. And the purpose of this 30-minute block is to either allow for advisement, which is 1 time a week. This allows for weekly interaction with an advisement teacher. It's typically a much smaller class size that allows more one-on-one connection with that advisement teacher. And the goal of it is to support relationship building with both staff and with their peers. So they do a lot of school-wide initiatives and challenges. The different advisement classes come up with their own names, and they do this challenge cup, and the students have a lot of fun, but with the goals centered around building those relationships. And then a lot of like our school-wide communications and assemblies go through that period as well. And then the other 2 times a week, the tutorial that's built into the schedule allows students to rotate through their 1 through 6 classroom teachers, and just allows an additional support or enrichment time outside of the time that they have with that teacher in the classroom. And it is flexible. So say they're doing great in their math class, but they're really struggling with their English teacher can opt to pull them, say if it's their math rotation, into work with them during that extra tutorial time. And this again is something that students will hear again between now and the start of school and throughout the beginning of that transition when we do start school, about advisement, learning about the purpose of advisement, about tutorial, how that works, how to connect with teachers during that time as we get closer to the fall. All right, so what do those schedules look like when you actually look at it? So this is an actual middle school schedule. In the fall, when students get their schedules, this is very much what it'll look like. And so you can see it's a big change. You see the 1 through 6 period, and then you see advise down at the bottom. That's the advisement class, which falls after lunch in the bell schedule. One of the things that we make sure that students notice is the calendar part. I know sometimes with the Monday is all periods, but if you look at the calendared part on the schedule, not all of them say Monday, but we just say standard Monday is all 6 periods, and then Tuesday, Thursday, odd, Wednesday, Friday, even. And then you'll see the course title, teacher, and then the room number as well included on the schedule. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Vanderveen to cover some of those electives in more detail for you all.
Yes, thank you.
So this is the fun part. This is the part where we really get to bring students into the scheduling and kind of go off of their preference in what elective classes they want to take. So we want to make sure that you're aware. We got a chance to connect with the 5th graders last week, which was awesome. And now we want to share a little bit about those wheels and those electives with you. So starting us off, we have our elective wheels. There are 2 wheels in these pathways, the exploratory wheel and the foreign language wheel. So starting with the exploratory wheel, this allows our students to get a small sampling of all of the different elective classes that we have to offer. So they will actually rotate through each of these classes to get those small samplings. So we have our art, our computers, our musical theater, our STEAM, and our music. Our second wheel is the foreign language wheel. This allows students to sample the 3 different languages that Laguna Beach Unified offers for students. That becomes really a full high school pathway as well. So students can opt to, especially if they're undecided as to what language they want to take for their high school pathway. This allows them to sample each of the different languages and learn more so about the culture and a lot of the history of each of these languages. And then when moving into middle school, students do have an option to begin the start of their first year in that language as a 7th grader and 8th grader, moving on to the high school pathway. So the foreign language wheel would be the second wheel elective offering students have. And our third options, these are our year-long courses. We have our band class and our strings class. Both of these classes are taught by the wonderful Mr. Wade, who is just fantastic at connecting with our students, and his love of music and appreciation of music is I think you just feel it, and it spreads. No experience is needed for our music classes. So students, whether they have prior knowledge of an instrument, they can come in and try out a new instrument if they did one in elementary school. And really the difference is the band class is most of your instruments, while the string class includes instruments that have a string. But both of them work together on different school and community performances. You might have seen them at hospitality night around Christmas time, or the Veterans Day parade. Really good opportunity to meet and collaborate. And the fact that it's a year-long class, it really creates just like a family team atmosphere. So those are our elective classes. We opted for a new one this year, which is leadership. 5th graders received information about a small sampling of 6th grade students that we wanted to incorporate into our leadership class. Leadership typically starts 7th and 8th grade, and this year we're including 6th graders. So thank you to those of you who applied. We have a good crew coming in. If you did not apply this year, we definitely, want your leadership skills and building on those in future years. So as you see the campus and see the events that our leadership group does, I encourage you to jump out there and try that maybe as a 7th and 8th grade with our ASB. And those are our courses. So next, we're going to talk about registration and the registration process, bringing it back to Ms. McMorris.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so what's next? Like we said, this elective portion is now choice for students. And so now open, the registration window is now open this week. We want you and your student to sit down, talk about the plan that you want for next year's classes. Determine, are you going to do a 0? Or are you not going to do a 0? That determines your drop-off time. Determine, what pathway, wheel, or year-long elective you may want to pursue. If you applied for leadership and were accepted, that will already be in there for you. So you will be able to log into your Aeries and see. So you'll be getting this evening, just kind of wrap up information from tonight's presentation. And there will be a link that will take you to this lovely yellow screen. And it will walk you through, this is just gonna show you a little example, but it'll walk you through if it'll load, step by step, exactly what you need to click on in Aeries in order to, that's not what we want. Well, hopefully it'll load. But this is just an example of the screen that you'll get the access to in the information tonight. But it's super helpful. It literally gives you a screenshot of Aeries and points out exactly what you need to do in order to complete the registration process. It should take no more than 2 to 5 minutes in order to complete the entire process. And it'll explain it in each step. We do ask that if you are not going to do a 0, that is part of the steps, you do enter into Aeries no 0. So at the end of the process, you'll have 2 items entered into your Aeries portal, either 2 elective choices or your 1 elective choice and no 0. And it doesn't look like this is going to load, but that's okay. It was just a visual to show you that yellow screen that you'll get. You'll get that this evening, and it'll walk you through step by step. If there's any questions on it, we'll be here, Mrs. Vanderveen and I, via email to help and assist getting in your electives this week. The elective registration window does close on Friday. So please make sure you take the opportunity at some point before the end of the day Friday to connect with your student and get their electives entered. Yeah, so it'll close Friday, April 8th. And again, if you have questions prior to that time, please reach out to us. I know then we'll be on spring break. If you maybe have last minute questions and don't happen to catch us before the schools close for spring break, that is okay. When we come back from spring break, although the registration deadline and the window will close, so you won't be able to manually make your selections at home, please, we want this to be as stress-free as possible. It's already, a challenging transition to a new school and to middle school. We don't want this to be a point of stress. We will be here for you when we come back from spring break. If you have lingering questions and we can make any last minute edits or changes, we know sometimes, students get kind of on the fence and go back and forth, but we can definitely support with that. All right, with that, Ms. Schooler.
Good evening. Thank you so much, ladies and Mr. Vidal. So I just want to talk briefly about some of the tools and resources we have as we welcome your students and incoming 6th graders as you come to TMS to make sure that you feel welcomed and supported. And so we have some on-campus as well as online resources, a variety of them. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but rather just some things to get you excited about coming to TMS. So as we already mentioned, we have an advisement that meets on Tuesdays. So you are going to have a teacher who is your advisor, who is there just to be a support. Sometimes we play games in advisement. Sometimes we, get school information, and we might do things from other campus initiatives like No Place for Hate. But again, it's a supportive person who's there to help you. You also have your counselors. You're meeting both of them tonight, and they are both amazing and very available. We will have activities throughout the year. Some of them are hosted by the Boys and Girls Club. We have yoga, we have Wellness Wednesdays, so many fun things for you to do. And when you're out there doing that, it's absolutely just a great way to meet adults and to meet other students. We also have clubs that meet during lunch as well as after school. A variety of them. You can do book club and read a different book every month and discuss it with classmates. You might do French club or coding, model UN or forensics, just to name a few. We have so many others. We also have workshops and homework club and tutorial. And then we have a bunch of stuff online that you can reference in order to feel like you have the information you need to be comfortable and successful here. So first and foremost, check out our TMS website. It's a great place to start off. We host a lot of information there. You will get the weekly wave, and I highly encourage you to read it every week. That's going to have a ton of information about what's coming up, what's happening here. And then you'll have access to Canvas, Aeries, we have the digital library, all of our Beachport apps. And then there's also tutoring resources like paper that you can get access to. And again, this is just the beginning, and we will be sure to be communicating all of this to you as you come here in the fall, but wanted to get you excited about what you have in store for you. And I think it's Mrs. Vanderveen, if I'm not mistaken.
Hello, all. I'm back. So other points of connections for our sixth graders. We have a wonderful group of peers that older peers that love to connect and just kind of guide our sixth graders as they transition to middle school. And this is throughout the year, not only the beginning of the year, but as we move forward. So our leadership students, our PALS students, they're there to support students as they transition. And then we also, the clubs, Miss Schooler did a great job highlighting the importance of clubs, but a lot of opportunities for connections. And that's really what we want to do is, as we welcome you into the Thurston Wave Rider family, we want you to see that, we're here to support you, not only the adults that you'll be surrounded by, but also the students. And we want to encourage you to make those connections with the students at the opposite elementaries and the students that are at different grade levels. So just again, if you can't tell already, we're really excited for you to join us. And we're just excited to see you kick off this journey of middle school.
Thank you, Mrs. Vanderveen. Here are a few key dates to make sure you mark down on your calendars. The first Wave Rider Day will be on Friday, August 12th. So please mark that down. And then also on Monday, August 22nd will be our first day of school. And also I'll just give everybody a brief moment to jot that down, and then I'll add a few more details about what happens on Wave Rider Day on the next slide. So Wave Rider Day, what happens? Well, on this day, you will get a schedule, which will go out ahead of time where you and your family can schedule a block of time within that day to come out and get your school schedule, pick up your PE clothes, grab your textbooks and school issued Chromebook, and then also take those great glamour shot photos for your yearbook. Just please make sure that when you come out, make sure you bring a bag or a backpack to hold on some of those items as you collect them throughout the day. Afterwards too, you'll be able to grab a school map and a bell schedule, and that's a great time for you to walk classroom to classroom so you can get a good sense of where you'll be going and when. And it's just kind of a nice way to orient yourself before the first day of school. And social media also is another great way to kind of see what sort of touch points or happenings are happening at Thurston. And Facebook and Instagram are two of our most popular social medias opportunities. And so please sign up and check us out. And I will turn it over to Mrs. McMorris, who will give you some more information about contact information and things that potentially might have some common frequently asked questions that we can address here at the end of the presentation.
Yes. So first and foremost, I think we really want the biggest takeaway to be we are here for you, myself, Mrs. Vanderveen, Mr. Vidal, Ms. Schooler, in this transition to middle school. So we want you to make note of our contact information. Again, I'm Mrs. McMorris. I work with students with last names M through Z, and Mrs. Vanderveen works with students with last names A through L. So capture our emails really quickly. You can also find them pretty easily on our website or on the district directory as well. But if you have questions, reach out to us even now. That's a big part of why we hold these family nights so early, because going into registration and closing out the fifth grade year and going into summer, we know for our fifth graders, that comes with a lot of questions. That's why we loved going see them in person and getting to do that this year, because I think them seeing us physically helps ease a lot of their anxieties and stresses and just all of the questions that we know this transition comes with. But there's no question too small. Please utilize us. Please reach out to us. I don't know, did we have any kind of frequently asked questions in the chat we can address right now briefly? Otherwise, if it's specific to your student, or maybe you just thought of it after this presentation or going through registration this week, please reach out to us. But I don't know if there's anything we can address this evening.
I can hop in and just say, it seems like some of the questions are really specific to zero period. So we haven't had a ton of questions, just a handful, but the zero period was probably the most common trend and just the electives in general for sixth grade. So maybe if we want to spend, I can do it, or Aubrey, if you want to just spend a couple minutes kind of clarifying that. But like questions about if they can drop it, if it proves to be too challenging, if they can if they can choose out of the wheel to focus in on only one part of it, if, like how exactly that works.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to speak
I'll keep
to that.
answering questions for people who have posted them there. If you want to answer just general kind of scope around the wheel and zero periods.
Fantastic. Yes. So for zero period, we do try to be understanding to different situations. Obviously, transportation in the morning can change. Obviously, students' workload or after school load can change. The thought is not that students are hopping in and out of an additional elective. If you start with an additional elective and that zero period and it proves maybe not to work out for your student or your family's morning schedule, then we can absolutely work on making adjustments to that, knowing that likely you probably won't rotate back into the zero period unless there's some specific circumstances that are discussed ahead of time. But yes, it is, we want students, especially the sixth graders, to be successful in the workload that they're signed up for. There's maybe 10%, 15% of students that actually have a zero period. 90% of our students really do have that 6 period schedule. And then, those that are able to take on that additional elective opt for that 7th class and that 0 period schedule. Right now, your student best, your after school routine, your morning routine. So in discussing that and making those plans going into registration this week, think about that and have those conversations with your student. And if you feel that that's a good fit, especially with this 6th grade transitional year, maybe 7th or 8th grade, it might be better served then to have an additional elective. As far as the wheel electives, they are a wheel. So every student taking the wheel rotates through all of those electives. We don't have students hop in or hop out based on just a particular subject. We want students that either do the foreign language wheel or exploratory wheel to have the full kind of sampling of all of those subjects. Reason being is because then as 7th and 8th graders, it becomes a pathway and they get more of a choice with a little bit more in-depth in specific content areas that they may have more interest in. And sometimes part of discovering what you're interested in is also discovering what you're not interested in. And so that's a big part of why with the wheels as 6th graders, they get very introductory levels at each. And then for 7th and 8th grade, they get to choose their preferences and have more depth of content at those grade levels. I don't know, did that answer most of the 0 period and elective wheel questions that you're seeing pop up? I see, is there a bus for 0 period?
We do have buses, yes. Not every bus runs. So there's essentially like 2 routes so there's limited pickup spots, but there are some bus spots available. And another one that just popped up was, can a student take a foreign language in 7th grade if they don't take the wheel in 6th grade? Absolutely. Those are 2 distinct courses. 6th grade is a sampling to experience it. 7th grade is when they start the 2-year program that allows them to enter to high school as a 2nd-year language student, either in honors or in the general 2nd year. So I know another person asked, is there any way to take both language and band and not have to take a 0 period as a 6th grade student? I totally hear you, because clearly it's a big transition already to go to middle school. So if your kiddo knows they love band and they also want to pursue language, one option would be to take band in 6th grade and hop into the language of their choice as a 7th and 8th grader. I honestly, Aubrey, didn't listen to everything else you said because I was trying frantically to answer questions in the chat. So I apologize if there's anyone who's thinking that your question didn't get fully answered. We're trying to make sure we navigate all of that. 6th graders are not required to take an exploratory wheel. They can take band or strings if they're, passionate about music or would like to become passionate about music. They can take that as their only elective. They do not have to take either the exploratory or the language wheel. So that's another one of the questions that we are getting. Let's see.
Homework often tends to be a big question, especially among the students. They often like to ask about homework. And I would say our teachers do a pretty good job of not over assigning homework, and actually a lot of times mainly focusing on it being classwork. And then when classwork is not completed, or maybe there's prep for a test or a project, then that rolls into homework. But largely a lot of teachers try to keep assignments and things in the class time. This is also not me saying there is no homework.
I know I was looking at the Q&A. Did we get most of everybody from the chat as well? I think that's, I'll scroll through and make sure. Band can also be started in 7th grade. Mr. Wade would encourage everyone, if they're interested, to start as soon as possible, especially if they've been playing in elementary school, just to keep up with it. As somebody who genuinely cannot play any instrument to save my life, I think hot cross buns is where I maxed out in 3rd grade. I can't speak to what exactly that progression looks like, but I know he's always trying to advocate for especially musicians who have been playing in elementary school to keep with it. To continue with their musicmanship, I think is what he's advocating for. But yes, either one, you can always go in and out. We're always looking to encourage students to try new things and to experience what their passions may be.
Awesome. Well, I think that about captures most of the questions then. So again, if we didn't get to any questions, or you have lingering questions, or maybe you have questions specific to your student or your situation, please just reach out to us. We're here to support, and then make sure you do get your elective registration in this week into Aeries. That email with information is going to be going out shortly this evening. You'll get that yellow page that'll walk you through each step. But again, we're here to answer any questions and follow up with you after spring break if you don't get questions answered prior to that. All right. Have a wonderful evening. We look forward to meeting each and every one of your students and families, parents too. We definitely love partnering with you as well. So we look forward to getting to know you better in the fall.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you attending.